So right now we are hearing about major developments in the Middle East as we are hearing that Aleppo was just bombed. Now the details are still very scattered. The dust still hasn't settled, but the details are very disturbing, to say the least, not only geopolitically, but also socially, with very little mainstream media coverage or a larger conversation about a big development that's going to have a huge impact on American foreign policy. Now, of course, we're hearing unconfirmed reports that the United States was working in coalition with Israel to launch these attacks. Those have not yet been confirmed. Also, other things that have not been confirmed is that an Israeli fighter jet was shot down. Allegedly, these attacks were against the Iranians inside of Syria. As we remember, Russia has promised the Israelis that they would try to push out the Iranian influence out of Syria right on the doorstep of Israel. But those are, of course, the unconfirmed details that we are hearing. Jason, what are the confirmed official details that we are hearing about this very huge bombing that just happened?
Yeah, so right now, we're getting reports out of Herat that 7 have been killed. Washington Post, Luke, they're saying that 6 people have been killed. So it seems there's absolutely loss of life, number one. Number two, it is the Aleppo International Airport. Now, Israel, who has not taken responsibility for this, has said that this is a place where Iranians are moving weapons, missiles, arms. However, to me, there's no doubt that this is just the beginning now that President Trump has tried to recognize the Golan Heights region as belonging to Israel when no other leader in history has done so. Russia, Putin is about to go discuss this with the Lebanese president. The U.S. has been blasted yesterday in the United Nations as there was an emergency security council meeting probably just prior to these attacks where 14 other nations, Luke, let me repeat that, 14 other nations condemned this decision to recognize Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights and said it was a violation of international law. You know what you have in the U.S. media, my friend? Absolute crickets. It's as though the UN only matters, Luke, when they want to go to war.
Exactly, and specifically what they vote for is selectively picked and handpicked on what coverage you're allowed to see and not allowed to see from predominantly the very enthusiastic warmongers at the mainstream media that predominantly cover pro-war voices rather than peace voices. Now, one thing that's also important here is that I do believe that there's a lot more international scrutiny to this because, again, we're still hearing unconfirmed reports that the United States could have been involved in this. If this happens, this is major news. We know what happened last time when Donald Trump decided to bomb Syria on behest of his daughter, who kind of told him to. Those are the details that we heard from this entire situation that was absolutely insane and left a lot of Americans scratching their heads like, hey, why are we bombing the Syrian government when they're the ones fighting radical Islamist terrorists in that region? There's a lot of scrutiny, a lot of conversation. We're not seeing that at all. And I think this is done on purpose, mainly because pretty much ISIS is eviscerated in Syria. They're pretty much done. There was even an Onion article saying that the last U.S. troops are chasing around the single-handed ISIS member around war-torn Aleppo. So, people obviously making jokes about the situation, but from the other videos that I have seen that's not getting a lot of coverage, there's lines and lines of hundreds and hundreds of radical Islamist ISIS fighters surrendering, and pretty much the war's over. But it looks like the war has just been ramped up on another level, and it's only going to get worse from here, as it's not to fight radical Islamists. Obviously, that's what it never was in the very first place. That's what our reporting was telling you from the very beginning. Hey, this is not about liberating and freeing people. Let's not kid ourselves here. This is a lot more. We even talked about Jenin oil. We even talked about the oil contracts that a lot of establishment elite people in the United States have to the Golan Heights region, couple years ago, when this war was still brewing, we told you, hey, the bigger part here is also Golan Heights. It's also to balkanize the area. It's also to destroy Syria. It's to divide and conquer, and to face off geopolitically against China and Russia, because China and Russia are the main kind of supporters. They're the main backbones of Syria. And now, with Donald Trump recognizing the Golan Heights region as Israeli for absolutely no reason or benefit to the United States, Russia has sent their military police in that specific region. Syria has vowed to fight to the last soldier, and we are looking at another conflict that is happening here, and it's going to be happening, and we've been foreshadowing this for a while, between the Syrian state, the Syrian government, supported by China, supported by Russia, which is, again, just had a victory against radical Islamists in their country and rebels in their country, but they've been through a lot against, of course, Israel and the United States, with also the secret backing of Saudi Arabia. So that's a very, 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 very scary situation, because these are global powers in a proxy war. And this war, obviously, from the events that just unfolded, is not going to end anytime soon, and it's only going to get worse from here. What else do you have to say about this? Because it was interesting to see this UN kind of resolution, Jason, because Israel has been bombing Syria dozens of times without any real justification, except for going after the Iranian influence, which we know was there. Iran was one of the countries that helped them fight against ISIS and radical Islamist terrorists. Again, big talking points here that you won't hear anywhere else on the mainstream media. But it's very interesting that this UN resolution actually came out and did this when Israel has been doing this dozens of times. And if it is Israel just by itself, it still is an interesting case to why this happened.
Yeah, so it wasn't a resolution. It was a meeting where they declared all of this illegal. And I want to say this, because you did have Russia's deputy permanent representative to the United Nations, Vladimir Sarvanikov. He said this, Luke, on the sovereignty of the Golan Heights, okay? This is pretty important. It is unacceptable when the emerging positive dynamics is undermined by unilateral steps, noting the U.S. must abandon its aggressive revision of international law. Russia's position remains unchanged. The Golan Heights are the territory of the Syrian Arab Republic. This is a first world nation with a real military that came into Syria because they smelled the bullshiz that this was not about ISIS. Since they have been there, this has been drawn out, and there is nothing left to draw out. ISIS is gone. As soon as ISIS was finally declared defeated, Luke, the 4th, 5th, 6th time, and there was nobody else to declare ISIS, all of a sudden Trump says, you know what? It's high time we recognize as a globe that the Golan Heights belongs to Israel. And you know what, my good buddies at Genie Energy, they deserve those contracts that they got years ago to drill in oil that apparently wasn't declared theirs by the United States at the time. But that's okay. I mean, this smells horribly. And again, our mainstream media, not interested because they love when we bomb Arab nations.
Yeah, they support Trump. They give him a boost. They praise him when he bombs the country and he starts more military conflicts and arms other despotic nations and does horrible things that the U.S. empire is known for, that he promised he would be different. I mean, Donald Trump previously said before, don't attack Syria, an attack that will bring nothing but trouble for the U.S. Focus on making our country strong and great again. And he's doing the exact opposite of what he promised, not only during his campaign run, but also predominantly what he just promised a couple weeks ago at CPAC. At CPAC a couple weeks ago, he's talking about General Raisin Kane bringing all the troops back. Even before that, made a major announcement. All the troops are coming back home from Syria, most likely even Afghanistan. Bring the troops home. Now, entangling us in a huge geopolitical mess that is not ending, and puts us on the forefront of a direct headbutt, of a direct conflict with Russia, which the delusional mainstream media won't dare tell you about. He sold lethal weapons to Ukraine. He has, now there's Russian soldiers on the Golan Heights contesting Trump's announcement. There's soldiers inside of Venezuela, which we're going to do another story about on this channel, with Trump saying, get your Russian troops out of Venezuela. All options are on the table. We have to understand the severity of the situation that is not going away, and it's only going to be worse, especially with the American peoples, with their heads in the sand, not knowing the bigger details of exactly what's happening here with their foreign policy, with their money, creating a situation that doesn't benefit anyone, hurts people, and definitely doesn't make America great again. That's my take on it. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. We always look forward to hearing from you. And again, hey, this is important information. We get censored, we get hurt in the algorithms, we get deranked, we get demonetized for talking about this information. While the fake news, mainstream media that tells you about Russian collusion and this dream, they're the ones getting promoted. So again, you guys are more important than ever. Thank you again so much for watching independent media. Stay tuned for more here on youtube.com/we.